Hey guys, EST here, and we've all heard about bird flu, aka avian flu or avian influenza. So just to set the record straight, right now, the number one concern from people who are unbiased and actually look at the facts are that you can control like a prion disorder in cows by detecting it, testing for it, and then controlling what they eat and controlling their travel. So if you remember mad cow disease, yeah, but that didn't stop Oprah from getting sued over it and having to go to court in Texas. And the different like pig diseases, okay, you just wash all the trucks that go from farm to farm and start doing like quarantine stuff. And that tends to work. For avian flu, you can just have potentially a bird, a duck, whatever, fly to your farm, land somewhere in some water or whatever, come in contact with your chickens, and then get up and fly across the country to a completely different chicken farm. That is an extremely bad scenario. Now, if you told a beef farmer they suddenly have to switch to camels, they could probably do it. Do a little research and swap out a little bit of equipment. It's not completely unrelated. It would be an interesting adjustment, but they could do it. Camels, absolutely tasty, by the way. Chicken farmers, they got cages. They could probably switch to like pheasants or hens or something. But an avian flu, they're thinking, might affect multiple different species of birds. It's not literally called chicken flu. It's called avian flu. And a lot of birds have a lot of similar genetics. They drink the same water. They fly around. They spread diseases real quick. So all the chickens are getting sick and dying, and they got to shut down the chicken farms, and I can't buy chicken in the U.S. Yeah, and maybe it also affects turkeys. Oh no. I'll just go eat pork and beef. But man, the spread of this. Think about rats all through multiple centuries, several centuries ago, how they just caused everything. It was mostly the fleas on the rats, but you got the droppings, you've got the fleas, you got the dead bodies, you got the cats getting infected, and it's somewhat similar with birds, except think about it. As far as I've heard, we've never seen a bird-related pandemic. So the complete lack of precedent makes me wonder how real this is. But then again, let's just get both sides of it. Let me start with that. On one side, you got everybody should be afraid of this. Everybody, glue yourself to the headlines. Make sure you subscribe to our news channel and be really, really afraid. You should be afraid all the time. Listen to us. We're the authority. Listen to everything we say. And then the people quoting that are usually the ones who like to spread their own little tweaked version of the truth with some truth mixed in and some lies mixed in to get, results to their own end. So you got the, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, no, you're not gonna, people. But then you've got actual scientists trying to say, no, it's like, this is actually serious this time. But then everybody goes back to like, okay, what were they saying in like 2013? This big thing that could take off. But see, then they stopped it. Then we had an Ebola outbreak and they stopped it. Even go back to Y2K, programmers stopped it. It would have happened. But they fixed the systems to have the dates go to 4 digits instead of just 2. Like, that was a real thing, and people are like, no, it was a conspiracy. Just because you didn't see it happen and you're mad that you spent money on survival equipment and got all scared doesn't mean it wasn't real. Doesn't mean it was completely made up. But swine flu, I think that was, 08, 09, something. You look back and it's like every year there was some big thing to be scared of, and none of them really materialized, except for COVID. So it's not just people sitting in a room rolling dice saying, oh, it's going to be this year. Let's scare people about this, when there's really absolutely no merit to this whatsoever scientifically, and it's all just exaggerated scare nonsense. That is basically never the case. But is it like, society's going to end and this is the big one this time? Not usually, no. However, you may have heard the stat that the lethality rate, the death rate from a human catching avian flu is 60%. I don't know where they got that number. I don't know who they tested it with. I could barely even find a credible source saying it. Here's a stat I verified. 13 cases confirmed in humans in the U.S. in 2024. So, oh no, it crossed over to humans. Let's get really concerned. It's been confirmed in humans since 1997. A lot of the outbreaks were in China. They went absolutely nowhere. It just never mutated to spread human to human, but it was able to jump from birds to humans. So that was like the first step. And without that, now we don't interact with birds really at all. The worst is, like I was saying earlier, can they convert from raising chickens to like raising pigs instead? Pretty much. They eat very similar things. You could raise something on some kind of feed on your farm. It would take some conversion. It would take some doing, a lot of equipment that would then be kind of scarce. But I think we'd get it done in 1 year if we just basically had to eliminate chickens because they're just all infected. Now, the other thing is, it's a virus. It dies when the chicken dies. So we could still eat the chicken, but the chicken would be dying on the farm, is I guess the theory. And then the workers could spread it, but you'd have to have a human-to-human transmission at a very high rate. Now, how do you get the worst possible pandemic? You take long incubation time with a long time of being contagious before symptoms come on, and then extremely severe symptoms that has a high lethality rate after that delay. So imagine COVID, but with like 10 times higher death rate. That would be bad. Okay, the government wouldn't even have to tell you to stay home. You would just do it. Plus, COVID could survive insane temperatures, direct sunlight. It was just a perfect storm, a mix of everything bad as far as making the most transmissible as quickly as possible. You got the aerosolized particles, you got the heat resistance, you've got the long incubation time. There was no stopping this thing. Every single strain of influenza does not work that way. It cannot be carried by aerosolized particles. I don't remember why. It's like something with the shape of it, or it's too big, or whatever. So now we're talking water droplets, and we're talking touch. That we can prevent. So while this could get big, because in 2015 we had, let me double check this, 136 cases in just Egypt. Pretty much nowhere else. I mean, here and there, 1, 2, 3, whatever, some farmers. But 136 cases in Egypt, and then it just went nowhere. Probably because the sun came out. I mean, Egypt doesn't really have much of a winter, but it's just hot there all the time. I think they pretty much just killed a bunch of chickens, called it a day, or the chickens all became immune to it, or the farmers started washing their hands, and then that was the end of it. And then in 2016, there were 10 cases in Egypt, and then in 2017, there were 3, and in 2018, there were 0. No vaccine rollout for the animals that I ever heard of. I really don't know much about how they treated it in that specific case, but that was the worst outbreak, sort of. It depends how you want to count the one in 2006 and 2005. Mostly Indonesia and Vietnam in that case. Egypt, actually, again, was back on the radar in 2006. So every time it started taking off into these numbers, it just did not have that push to just go nuts, to go absolutely berserk. And I think that's because it never went fully human to human, unless you were like getting real close to that human, you know? So do I think it's a big threat? Absolutely not. But the lethality rate and the fact that people aren't used to this strain, it's H5N1, that's bad. However, when was the last time you were infected with like a SARS variant? Like they I wouldn't say they didn't exist, but they were extremely not in widespread circulation before COVID, but your body has seen influenza before at least. So how close is it? But then again, how many humans were exposed to now having an inoculation dose because the incubation time wasn't fast enough? So year after year after year, it keeps crossing over into humans and doing nothing. But the rest of this video is about what if it did. What would you do if specifically any influenza variant started becoming a really big fast-spreading thing? Let me just remind you that on the flip side of the coin, influenza hasn't gone away for hundreds and hundreds of years. We are not capable of beating this particular strain of organism. You have it, you get better in 4 days, you feel like crap, there's no ongoing anything, and then you're immune to anything similar to that for a while, and then you go catch the next one the next year. Or you're like me and don't catch the flu for like a couple years and then catch like 3 in 1 year. So do I think this is gloom and doom? Absolutely. We're headed to an unavoidable conclusion of everybody's going to get avian flu eventually. No, the numbers do not support that. The logic does not support that. It is scaremongering, but people like to talk about it because it is a real threat that really exists. It has crossed over into humans consistently year after year after year. And a couple little mutations and this thing could go berserk because it has a crazy high lethality rate. Need I remind you that flu-related deaths, I think that's the proper way to say this, because somebody could have other conditions like being extremely old or having cancer, a bone marrow thing, or who knows, or being a chain smoker who gets 5 hours of sleep every night. But 10 to 50,000 people die just in the US from the flu, or die while having the flu. It's already very serious. So a new variant that your body is even less used to? Yeah, you see deaths in the millions. In the unlikely but very immediate possible case that this thing went very fast spreader mode. So that's the first half of the video. That's the most critical information to set up the stage of what's going on, what's misinformation, what's not, is it a real thing? So I don't think it's going to jump to humans. I'd give it maybe a 10% chance, but a 10% chance of like 50% of the world's population potentially dying. Sometimes you roll 2 dice and it comes up 7. You know what I mean? So what can you do about it? First up, number 1 step, look up different types of PPE. Just like find like a nurse article or something, or like a training, something on a college website, something real like from a good source about here's what a mask does, here's what this does, here's what gloves do, here's what this disinfectant does, here's what iodine does versus hydrogen peroxide versus rubbing alcohol or hand sanitizer. Here's what can be killed by heat up to 140 degrees. Here's what has to be 250 degrees. Here's the treatment for a virus versus a bacteria versus a fungus, which really, if you don't know that, you didn't pay attention to high school. That is not complex doctor stuff right there. But everybody's saying, oh my gosh, COVID, I'm going to put gloves on to touch things at the grocery store. What? And then touch your face with the glove and what? Do you think it goes through your skin? Don't even get me started on medical style masks. I was fully trained in 2009 when I worked at a hospital. I worked at more hospitals up until about during COVID. The only time that I didn't catch COVID was when I worked at a hospital, which is kind of funny. We were taught what they do, what the limitations are for, where to wear them, why to wear them, and who to ask to wear them. And little bit of an incongruency between what we were told. That's all I can probably legally say on YouTube. So COVID was spread by aerosolized exhaled water vapor because it was so heavily in the lungs and it could transport in really, really lightweight droplets of water. So they would just like float. They could go across a room 50 feet like nothing. That is why so many people caught it. Now the flu is mostly spread by larger droplets when people cough, sneeze, or talk in close proximity to each other. So believe it or not, in that case, a mask of just a droplet blocking style, like a dental style and up to a full hospital style medical mask would actually be somewhat effective. It would actually be extremely effective. I'm looking at like percentages and charts and stuff, and they don't really match each other, but generally it's those things, coughing, sneezing with very close proximity to people or onto surfaces. And then people touch the surfaces, like doorknobs and, countertops and credit card machines, that kind of stuff. And then touch their eyes, their mouth, or especially their nose. I don't think I need to express too hard what the issue with that is. If a new hyper deadly flu strain came out that people's immune systems were not ready for, and the way to stop it from spreading is to not touch your nose, mouth, and eyes, clean your hands constantly, wear a mask, social distance, stay home if you're sick, and all these things they told us to do in the past that worked really, really well for COVID. I am telling you guys that for influenza it would work. For a SARS variant, it would not. In my opinion, and according to the opinions of multiple scientists' studies, and other respectable sources that are unbiased. So I feel like people wouldn't do that, and I feel like that would be the problem. However, we also learned that no matter who's in charge of the country, it's going to be an economic kick in the nuts if we had another thing where a lot of people stay home and couldn't work. And it is going to be not recoverable if like 10% of the population of the world died. I mean, real estate prices, because now the demand is lower and everything's for sale because everybody died. Number of children being raised in foster homes and in poor conditions, so they're less likely to succeed in their career and grow up to be well-adjusted people with proper morals and personalities, social skills, and all the other stuff that you usually get in a stable family. Just deflation, the scaling down, people getting fired, and then other people like skilled trades, you wouldn't be able to find people because they died, and you can only train people so fast. Everything would grind to a halt, even without irresponsible printing of money and spending. It would be bad. It would be like Great Depression bad. Now, on the good side, instead of an experimental immunization, and I'm going to use that term instead of vaccine, because immunization means you're immune to it. Vaccine just means they're trying their best, apparently. It might do something. They really dropped that term immunization real quick. But that whole, the spike protein, the new way to synthesize it and all that, it really didn't quite bring me up to the I'm pretty confident I'm not going to catch polio level, let's put it that way. However, we've been making flu vaccines for decades and we pretty much got that science down. Now here's the funny thing. during COVID, because they couldn't get accurate sampling and because the flu didn't spread very fast, the vaccine got down to like single digits, upwards of 11% effectiveness against whatever strain was out that year because they used the previous year's strain, or well, multiple strains. So the chances of you catching like a flu that was prevented fully by that is very, very, very low. However, the numbers from 2023 are looking pretty good. They're estimated at in the high 40s. And that's where it kind of always was before COVID. Here's the problem. Like, you look at the chickenpox vaccine, it's subdermal. I don't think I've ever heard of somebody having a crazy reaction to it, and I've had allergic reactions to 2 different vaccines. One I almost died from, and the other, I just had a really bad 2 days. But I guess the doctor didn't consider it life-threatening. He just considered it a severe reaction. That tetanus one, ooh, that's a doozy. A lot of people have some tissue pain, some widespread tissue pain after that one, I guess is how I would and they would describe it. Now, the flu vaccine, good luck finding numbers these days on what the number of complications and deaths directly from allergic reactions and complications from the vaccine are. You'll never find it. I've got some old numbers from 10, 20 years ago, and severe complications, hospitalizations on up to death, that whole category is ballpark between 1 in 10,000 worldwide per year. Kind of low from a percentage standpoint, and like my immune system's really weird. I'm allergic to like latex and stuff and ibuprofen, so I think my immune system is the problem. It's a little weird and a little aggressive, and it just attacks everything. But if they came out with an avian flu vaccine after it spread and a bunch of people are dying and it's getting really bad, 1, people wouldn't trust it. 2, it probably actually would be pretty effective. But 3, influenza vaccines over the last like 3 decades, not flawlessly safe. Very, very low percentages of people having severe like anaphylaxis from it. And they probably have some other wacky condition and know better by the time they're an adult. They like know it's problematic. They know they're a little different. So I wouldn't be able to get it unless I did what I did last time, which is lie on the Walgreens form and say, no, I don't have a history of reactions. Oh, sorry, I misread that. I thought it said, I really need this job. Just give me the damn flu vaccine and the chickenpox one. I looked at the numbers of like reactions to chickenpox. It was so low. I'm just like, give it to me. I would literally rather have a reaction in a Walgreens with trained nurses right next to a hospital than I would to catch chickenpox while I work at a hospital where a ton of people have chickenpox. As an adult with a crazy immune system, that would be really bad. That would be more life-threatening. The flu one, I had never gotten it, total wild card. But with how tetanus went and the other one, pertussis, I believe, was the one I had a reaction to when I was a kid and almost died. Let's just say I was sticking around in that lobby a little longer just in case. 0 complications from it though, so cool. But the technology behind how they produce it with like a disabled germ cell is so much more traditional and established. It's really your body that's the problem. It's not some experimental new thing that might cause weird heart issues and all kinds of who knows. I mean, it was very experimental the way they did the last one. But if the mortality rate was 5-10%, I've never met a flu I can't destroy, but I'm getting older. So I probably would get it, but I'd wait 6 months. I can work from home. Now, the equipment to make them cheaply and quickly already exists. It's how they make a whole bunch of other vaccines. It's not new. So they'd be cheap, they'd be quick, they're using established science. It would be like the opposite of the COVID vaccine. But do I trust Big Pharma? Hell no, absolutely not. They care more about money, politics, and pushing the narrative and keeping the government happy and all this other twisted crap. No thanks. So now you can start rolling around in your head with all the facts, at least with the research I've done and my level of knowledge, but I'm not a doctor, this is not medical advice, this whole video isn't. I think you'd be more informed now than when you're like panicking and stressing and thinking, okay, now I got to do the research and well, all the information's being suppressed. All you really need is a good baseline of knowledge, and that's what this video is. And if you appreciate it, leave a like and send it to everybody you know. But here's some general advice that you'll hear from any doctor. Just want to make sure we cover the bases on what do you do if this thing has an outbreak. I covered like if they develop a vaccine, do you get it? Would it be safe historically with numbers we already have? What would be the lethality rate and how would it spread, and what do you really need to do to not catch it? Well, stock up on, household cleaners, disinfectants, that kind of stuff. and have, I mean, if you don't have 2 gallons of hand sanitizer, what are you even doing? Because then you could like leave, go to the grocery store, touch all the same surfaces as everybody else. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth while you're out there. And people do it like 170 times a day or something like that. So you got to train yourself not to do that. Gloves won't do anything because they'll just sit on the surface of the gloves and then you'll touch your nose with the glove. They do literally nothing. Learn how to disinfect your phone and what chemicals do it and the most effective way to do it, because you'll probably be touching that, or, just ignore it while you're out in public. Treat it like you're going in and out of an airlock, and don't like touch your steering wheel and all that, because then you touch that and to touch your face. Just treat it like, okay, now it's dirty, now it's clean. Now it's dirty, now it's clean. Now it's dirty, now it's clean. And your safe zone is your car and your, living area and your work, wherever you work. So touch the door, touch this, touch that, touch the thing, go to the bathroom, whatever. Sanitize. Okay, now I'm going to sit down and do work. Now I'm going to sit down and be home. Now I'm going to sit down in my car and drive. You really got to learn to think like that. But past that, how do you fight off anything in case you are developing symptoms and you don't even know if it's this new illness or an old one or whatever, or you're in a vulnerable group, like you're old, you're a smoker or whatever, which, oh my gosh, quit that. You're severely overweight, which you should be more afraid of that than you should be of a pathogen. But yes, that is a comorbidity. Number 1, get 8+ hours of sleep or your immune system is going to be so crippled it's not even funny. Taking vitamin C when you're already sick does absolutely nothing. However, people have said, well, you got to get vitamin D, you got to get C, you got to get zinc, and you got to get this and this and this. And if you don't, your immune system won't have enough stuff to build white blood cells. Well, then you need B vitamins to keep you from being tired, and metabolism and body temperature. Okay, let me just break this down, okay? You don't need some magic Asian berry. You don't need some supplement you saw on a YouTube ad. Multivitamin. Done. Now you've got everything you need. That's how they work. It is that simple, and they're dirt cheap. Now, taking a multivitamin every day is like debatable, and then the really fancy ones, and what about absorption levels and blah, 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 blah. Okay, if your body really needs like selenium and zinc and C, it's going to get it from the multivitamin and you're going to have it. There's a lot more science than that, but it's there and you can digest it, and it's better than not having it. So if you had some kind of nutritional imbalance that you're not even aware of, or you got like some weird thing where, you take heartburn medicine and that causes this deficiency because then the acid can't break down this and then you're short on that. Just throw everything at it and pee out what you don't use. It's really that simple. So sleep, nutrition, knowledge of how to disinfect stuff and what kills what pathogen and why. Actually go out and buy the things that keep them in stock before everybody else goes to rush out and buy them. And for the love of God, stop touching your eyes and nose and mouth while you're in public and your fingers have just touched surfaces that 1,000 other people did. And if you're sick, stay home. I don't care if it's avian flu or not. You're just being a jerk. You're just being inconsiderate. Like, oh, I took the day off of work. Well, I got a cold, but it's only a cold. I better go grocery shopping. No, you better stay home, jerk. I don't care if it's not life-threatening. You're just being a terrible person. Just don't spread it to people. Stay home. Take an actual vacation at home. And if you have other factors that are within your control, so not age, but smoking and being overweight, being chronically, tired and lack of sleep, do something about it now. Start working on it now instead of, I need to, get back to a healthy weight and healthy blood pressure and healthy this and that because now it's flu season. It's going to get even worse for me. Do it now. Fix your diet now. Fix your sleep now. In fact, it's incredibly neurologically damaging. That's like a last 2 years kind of study thing. And this is a prepping channel. Do I really need to say it? Have dry goods sitting around. I don't care if you just got some off the shelf, bags of rice, a little bit of oatmeal, and some long shelf life stuff, and you're good to go. You got, 100,000 calories just sitting in your pantry. Or if you're going to go full blown like I do and have 500,000 calories and just a couple buckets, like Rubbermaid containers and all that, just stacked up in the back of my closet. And pack it yourself with the full 1 hour long guide on my channel. And it really does need to be 1 hour long, not those 3-minute videos you see from other preppers, because you have to know about humidity and pathogens and this temperature and that thing and how to check the seal, what brand to buy. I mean, it's really the perfect video. And it's really as long as it needs to be. Trust me, there's that much information. But 1 hour to, drop like 2 bills on a 3 months food supply. You aren't getting that from a company. And in another video on this channel, I ate nothing but my dry goods for 1 week. It was miserable because I had to drive past restaurants that were open and like the cafeteria at work. Like that was a factor I didn't really... Yeah, it was awful, but not because of the food. I was actually just fine with the food. I'm like, okay, this is just bland and whatever. Move on with my day. It was fine. Very interesting video if you want to see my mood change as the video goes on. Well, we got that and all kinds of other content on this channel, so poke around, see what you can find. We got all kinds of like electronic stuff and like generator and solar hookups and like the cheapest of the cheap equipment you could buy because, you know, I ain't got a real big budget and you probably don't either. Thanks, Biden. But yeah, just subscribe and like if you like the content. I think I covered the topic from every possible angle and didn't just parrot off 10 other facts that I found on some other website to get clicks and get money. That's not how we do things on this channel. I don't talk about it unless I know about it. And the little patches of things that I don't know about, I research ahead of time and I make sure I get the full picture and get an accurate view and then give you all the details, not just half the information you need and masquerade it as a full video and a full guide with everything you need. Not throwing shade at any of the other channels, of course, except I am, and they're awful. So in my completely unbiased opinion, I think you should totally subscribe here and check out some of my other content. But hey, thanks for watching. Like I said, send this to everybody you know that isn't very scientific or is in a high-risk group or like is afraid of avian flu or whatever. I think this is some good information I put together. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.